Hey, boys and girls, today we're gonna talk about 9/11. It's a little something called 9/11. And, well, boys and girls, does anyone here know what 9/11 is? Does anyone know? You over there, Timmy.
Yes, in 11th of September, las Fuerzas Armadas did a coup d'état in Chile.
Oh, that's great. But no, that's not the 9/11 that I'm talking about. Yeah, Tommy over there.
Yes, November 9th, 1923. That was Hitler's beer hall putsch.
Wow, great job again. But no, that's not the 9/11 that I'm thinking about. Does anyone here in this class know what 9/11 was?
Yes, me. In 1943, September 11th, the Pentagon started being constructed.
Guys, I'm talking about the 9/11 that happened in New York. Do any of you kids know about the most popular 9/11 event in this world right now that happened in New York? What happened in New York?
Yes, I know. The Dutch House of Orange discovered New York in 1609.
Guys, September 11th, 2001. 9/11. That's what I'm talking about, alright? In my ideal world, that would have happened in my classroom whenever my teacher would have talked about 9/11. But it's not. But I'm here to talk about, I want to start off talking about Saturn because of 9/11. Actually, no, I wanted to talk about 9/11 because of Saturn. So, what it was 9/11, okay, you have all of these conspiracy theories of the CIA and, Osama bin Laden being a synthetic dictator, a CIA agent. There's all these different conspiracy theories, but here's my thing, right? It goes a little bit deeper, okay? It goes a little bit beyond that. Because George Bush, and I want to point out all the different synchronicities, right? I'm going to leave the dots out, and you can put together the dots if you want. It's maybe possible that the universe has created perfect synchronicities, or it's also possible that, the Vatican, who understands the Bible, who understands cosmology, numerology, what everything means, what the physical is in comparison to the spiritual world, has done certain rituals to work towards the prophecies of said scripture. Now, I'm going to take this off. And we're going to... Okay. So, I'm going to start off by giving you one synchronicity, okay? And I'm going to relate this back later. Now, let's start off with this. One of the synchronicities, and one of the things that was kind of weird. George Bush, as you all know, one of the most popular clips in, U.S. history is when he realizes that the two towers and the World Trade Center have been destroyed by a plane. Very popular clip. And can anyone tell me what he was doing? Well, he was reading a book to a bunch of children. And he was in a class just like I was just now a couple of minutes ago. A couple of seconds ago. Seconds, minutes, time. George W. Bush was reading a book. And maybe this might be weird. But what book was he reading? He was reading a book called My Pet Goat. My Pet Goat. And that's a Freemasonic term, right? Even the dude Jordan Maxwell says this. Because he is himself a Freemason and he understands Freemasonry. He comes out and he says, yeah, in Freemasonry, when you say, I got you a pet goat, it's to signify that, oh, I'm freaking pissed at you. If somebody is pissed at you in Freemasonry, you would say to that person, oh, that person got you a goat. Now, that's the first thing, right? Second weird thing is that George W. Bush or since Prescott Bush, actually. They were in Yale's secret society, Skull and Bones, where, one of the rituals, by the way, in Skull and Bones is they make you sit in a coffin, right? Much like the Freemasonic Skull and Bones coffin. And they'll make you, wank. While, oh no, sorry. People surround you and they start to wank while you tell your deepest, darkest secrets. I can't exactly remember, but the ritual goes as such. I don't think that that's necessarily relevant. I think that's just more for shock value and to get people's attention hooked. That's what they do. They do this in Skull and Bones society. So, okay, you have Skull and Bones, and you have the fact that he was reading My Pet Goat. But now we go to some more in-depth information about Tisha B'Av and Samson's sacrifice. Tisha B'Av is the day in which Solomon's temple was brought down. And what's interesting about Solomon's temple, well, again, you go to Freemasonry, and again, Skull and Bones is a branch that you can enter through Freemasonry at a certain point when you get very high up there. You have, in every single lodge, you have Baz and Yakin. What is Baz and Yakin? Baz and Yakin are the two pillars of Solomon's temple. That is another, and you study the Hermetic laws of alchemy, and, a lot of different types of mysticism, even, like I was talking to with Momo Sisei, the Wu Chi and Taoism. They have the law of polarity, and Baz and Yakin are a symbol of polarity. Because on one side you have Baz, and the other side you have Yakin. One is the feminine, one is the masculine. As we already know, one is moon, one is sun, one is 0, one is 1. So, Baz and Yakin were brought down on Tisha B'Av. Now here's when it gets a little bit too synchronized, when it gets a little bit too similar. Tisha B'Av is celebrated on the 9th day of Av. The 9th day of Av. Now on the Hebrew calendar, the 9th, Av is, I think, the fourth month. And yes, if you search up when is Tisha B'Av this year, you're going to see August 23rd or 24th. But when you look at the Celtic calendar, Tisha B'Av, Av is the 11th month. So again, you have 9, 11. And the interesting thing is, Tisha B'Av was the day in which Solomon's temple, Baz and Yakin, were destroyed. Well, let's forget about Baz and Yakin for a second, because when you look at Kabbalah, right? Kabbalah, let me show you a picture here. Well, yeah, there's 3 pillars, right? We also go back to Wu Chi, right? We have the monad, we have the source, the energy, we have the singularity. It breaks off into yang and yin, right? Masculine and feminine, left and right. But then again, we have Tai Chi, which is the harmony between yin and yang. It's not the same as the number one greatest. It's called the Great Void, where everything is one. That's the Wu Chi. That's the monad. That's God. That's everything. That's the monad. That's the 1 point. That's ground zero. That is everything in existence put into 1 point. Then it is split off into principles of polarity, which is yin and yang, right? Good and evil, darkness and light, empty and full. Matter, antimatter. But then between those two things, we have Tai Chi, which is the harmony between both the yin and yang, right? And through the harmony of the yin and yang, you have the Holy Trinity. You have Ein Sof Ar. You have Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You have Mother, Father, and Son. Child. Mother, Father, Child. That is the principles of polarity, which is why Baz and Yakin aren't limited to just 2, because there's a third pillar. And you can see it in Freemasonry as well. Look at this. You have Bazan Yakin, and in the middle you have the altar. You have the source, right? The Saturnian hex right there. And then at the very top you have the all-seeing eye, the God, the source, the generational power. If you can see right there. So if there's 3 pillars, why are we talking about 9/11? Dude, because there was a 3rd tower that mysteriously dropped. No plane flew into it, it just dropped. And that's probably, if you don't believe that 9/11 was an inside job, like, yes, okay, we get it. Everything has to be looked through a perspective, and it's all a discussion. But if you don't believe in the back of your mind, yes, this is definitely something suspicious, and this is definitely something that is very weird. I don't think Osama bin Laden was actually a dude who had intentions to destroy for the purpose of Al-Qaeda, or the purpose that Al-Qaeda has, supposedly. If you don't believe that, but you know that a 3rd tower mysteriously, like super mysteriously, no plane flew into it, none of that, fell down, then I am sorry, but you are very far off gone believing, whatever it is the government is trying to make you believe. Government, secret societies, whatever. You have to question everything, and if you don't question why there was a 3rd freaking tower that fell down, then I'm sorry, but you need to. You have to do that. You have to question everything. So why is there a 3rd tower? Dude, because there's a 3rd pillar. Because there's a 3rd pillar? Or there's a synchronicity that everything is somehow connected and it's all like some universal plan beyond the control of us humans? I don't know. Something else that I'd like to point out as I'm editing this is when you have mother and father taken away and destroyed by external forces, there's no need to then do anything else to the child, because the child just can't exist regardless. Something very interesting about that 3rd tower is how many floors did it have? It had 47 floors. 47 is a very important number in Freemasonry because, and you ask any Freemason, any actual knowledgeable Freemason about this, you will know that 47 stands for the 47th problem of Euclid. Euclid and Euclidean geometry. That's what they used on their. That's how they. If they didn't have a square and compass, right? If they didn't have a square and compass or other tools in order to build all of the architecture that the Freemasons built, because remember, Freemasons are, the stonemasons that built all of the architecture that we see in the world. They used, if they didn't have their little square and compass, they used the principle of the 47th problem of Euclid, which is a mathematical equation that you can take, which includes like Pythagoras theories, that teaches you how to make a perfect right angle, which is how you can make later the square and compass, or just the square. I mean, you can make the square. Now, I'd have to go a lot deeper into it in order to understand maybe what the symbology is behind the, using the 47th problem of Euclid. Oh my gosh. And as I'm looking through this recording and about to edit it and stuff, I just realized that 47, 4 plus 7 is 11. 11 is, Bazan Yakin. 11, 40. I mean, come on. But, yeah. But there is that connection one more time. The 47th problem of Euclid is the 47th, of this 47th floor of the, architecture that was destroyed, right? Tisha B'Av, celebrated on the 9th of the 11th month of the Celtic calendar, a story in which 2 pillars are brought down, actually 3 pillars, because it's, Solomon's Temple. Solomon's Temple has a lot of different metaphors, and its architecture if you look at a map or sorry, a blueprint of Solomon's temple, you'll see it represents a lot of different things. But it had two main pillars, Baz and Yakin. That's, dude, I'm on fire right now. I don't even have a script right now. I'm putting it all. I'm transmitting to the screen, to the freaking podcast. Okay, but then we look at something else. But in order to understand this, we have to understand Saturn, right? What is Saturn? How do we know that Saturn is Satan? And who the heck thought that Saturn was Satan? Well, okay, we go to the first types of Saturn worship, which happened in the ancient, super ancient Middle East, right? They somehow knew that Saturn was, a planet in the sky, and they somehow related Saturn to the number 6 and the hex. The hex of Saturn. And you really have to wonder now, because how the heck did they know that there was a hexagon in Saturn? On the top of Saturn. The very top. Perfect top. Perfectly centered on the top. How did they know that? I don't know how they knew that. But we need NASA technology nowadays in order to know that there is a hexagon on top of Saturn. Now the thing is, according to these ancient teachings, the way that it was Saturn was the 7th, or sorry, was it the 6th? 6th. Let me check. It was a okay. So there's the moon, there's Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars. I should actually show this photo. You have Earth, right? Or no, you have Hell at the very bottom. And yeah, you have Earth, and then above the Earth you have the Purgatory. Above the Purgatory you have the Moon. Above the Moon you have Mercury. Above Mercury you have Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn at the very top, right? What happened to Neptune and Pluto and Uranus? No idea what happened there. But this was, and this is a very, very important map that was used in said days. And, up here, we have, the realm of beyond, right? I don't know how you would call this place. But this place is where the stars lie. And the stars are souls. The stars are souls. Goes back to what we were talking about, Jesus Christ. And the sun being the soul, in Spanish, el sol. Stars were the souls in this train of thought. And it would crystallize first through Saturn. It would crystallize, the stars would crystallize through Saturn. And I think it was Manly P. Hall that says that Satan crystallizes you. So this is the 7th planet, according to this map. And it crystallizes the soul. And through there on out, you then, enter the earth. And this was the mythology that was being read there. Now, this then has ties with certain numerology, specifically the number 666, the mark of the beast, 666. And it has to do with the hexagram, right? You have the hexagram on top, 6 sides. It's later then turned into a cube, right? The black cube of Saturn. The cube has 6 sides. It's turned into the Star of David. It wasn't originally called the Star of David, but that shape, the hex, which has 6 triangles, 6 sides, and 6 points. 666 again. Then the Greeks came along and they turned this deity into both Chronos and the clock, right? They represented that time and Saturn specifically into the clock. And what does the clock do? Well, let's go here and let's pull up an image of a clock. Right now it's 830 trillion. Here's what's interesting. All right, here's what gets incredible. 6. All right. Copy image, and we can now draw on this. The clock is very interesting. You have 1 here, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 minus 12, right? Opposite numbers. 6 minus 12 is 6. 7 minus 1 is 6. 8 minus 2 is 6. Also, I'm realizing right now I said 6 minus 12. I meant 12 minus 6. 9 minus 3 is 6. 10 minus 4 is 6, right? So it's always going to be 6 when you look at the clock in this way. Another way in which humans, right, human systems have created, systems in which we count time. You have 60 seconds in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 24 hours in a day. 2 plus 4 is 6. You have the 666 symbolism in there again. Because it's everywhere. And now this isn't man-made, but rather a universal concept that has to do with 6. And this is why you were said to have the mark of the beast. When you have the mark of the beast, it means you are a carbon beast. You are a human that has been crystallized into this human form that doesn't let you do anything if you don't eat, if you don't sleep, if you don't, have the time to receive the right amount of sunlight, if you don't have, what else? If you don't have air to breathe, you will die. You will not experience, and your soul is no longer a vessel, beyond the constraints of the physical. I can't fly right now if I don't tune in to. I mean, there's people that can levitate, and I've gotten kind of close once, but I've seen some people online though, so it's not that insane. But I've seen people levitate, and it's only until you do that meditation. I wanted to say meditate because it sounds, rhymes with levitate. Sorry, my bad. People who do enough meditation and they tap into their higher self, which is tapping into the side of themselves which isn't the physical, which is beyond the mark of the beast, they then, free themselves from the constraints of the physical, and they're like literally meditating, and they're freaking levitating. They're levitating as they meditate. They astral project. I've had times where astral projection has, I've seen it. It's real. There's spirits that talk. It's real. But it has to be beyond what we can see. Remember what I said last time? The visible light spectrum is 0.003%. 0.0035%. There's a whole lot of crap that you guys can't see with your eyes. Can't feel because you're not tuned into that frequency either. I can't feel gamma waves. I can't perceive them. My brain doesn't take them in. But I still have my imagination and I have my thoughts. Is that physical? Where do I store memory? Is it electrical? Is it electrical brainwaves? How does my brain know the exact configuration of electrical brainwaves and the electrical impulses that nerves have to take in order to re-experience a certain memory in my brain, in my imagination? Well, then that's when we go to, things that are beyond the physical, beyond the mark of the beast. And what is the mark of the beast? That's what every single thing in this world is made out of. Every living thing in this world is made out of. Carbon. Because carbon has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 666! Again! Carbon. You are the beast of carbon, and you hold the mark of the beast in your blood, in your soul essence. What contains your soul essence? Your blood. That is what allows you to move around, right? And bring energy to every single part of your body. 666 again. The carbon atom. Let's look at the symbol of the atom. Atheist symbol. It's the atheist symbol technically, but it's still the symbol of the atom. The atomic model is very, very difficult to truly understand and to grasp. People say even clouds of electrons have been not been confirmed, and it's apparently just information, right? Popping in and out of existence as electrons moving around. The most accurate interpretation I can find of it is the torus field. That would be like the best atomic model. But what do we have? Okay, we have the atheist symbol, which is kind of like what the typical atom would look like in chemistry class, right? This part is not filled. But what's interesting about this? Well, again, we have the Star of David, or the Saturnian hex, which is a symbol of Saturn. Why? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. How many points? 1. Not vertexes, but points. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how I counted 5 there. 6. And then how many sides inside? Well, you have the hexagon again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This whole thing represents 6. That's why it's called a hexagram. Hexagram, hex, 6. It's the same symbol, right? Of the kind of atheistic and also atomic model. And the atom of carbon, again, 666. So don't think the church the Bible speaks in metaphors. When it says the mark of the beast, it doesn't mean you are possessed. It doesn't mean that you are now going to go away from God. Because no matter what you do, you are always born with the mark of the beast. No matter what. Now, later, we can talk about QR codes. Every single, what is it? The QR code has like some base number, and it's always going to be 6. According to whatever company because there's different types of barcodes, not QR codes, barcodes. Barcodes have the 6, and the 6, but it's certain systems of barcodes. Not all of them have them. But then you have modern day prophecies coming true, right? The Bible says, and I can't remember where because I didn't take notes for that specifically. I took some different notes, but this is just coming to my head right now. The Bible says, beware of a future where there's a cashless society, right? CBDCs coming in, printing money all the time. And they're going to make a system where you cannot buy or sell things, you cannot do merchandise if you don't wear the mark of the beast on your wrist. Now, you already wear the mark of the beast everywhere you go since the moment you were crystallized. Since the moment the sperm hit the egg, you have been part of the beast. And that doesn't mean you are evil, okay? In the USA, there was this huge talk not so long ago that they would pay I think it was, or they were discussing the idea of first off, CBDCs, right? Cashless society. But then also a system in which you would have your credit card implanted into your wrist. So that instead of having to take out your credit card, because that's really freaking inconvenient, you would take out your credit card and instead of, doop, because that's too much, you would just put your hand out and whatever system would, have you pay or transfer money for someone else. Maybe in the future people will hold their hands out over each other, and then that's how they can. Maybe with Neuralink, they would think of a number and then it would transfer immediately. I don't know. But the point is, if you have the QR code, if you have the barcode, which is, has the 666 in it, biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. Not because the Bible predicted the future, but because the Bible is the greatest story of all time. Trillions of dollars revolve around it in the Vatican. Trillions of dollars revolve around that one book. There is no way that the people at the very highest top of esoteric creed, you guys have to remember, all the founding fathers to George W. Bush to all these people, they weren't in these secret societies learning this hermetic alchemy and kind of also satanic, because it's Saturnian as well, Saturnian rituals that are taking place. They aren't doing it for fun. Had a girl in my class once tell me that it was because they were bored, and that's why they did these weird rituals, because they were bored and they just wanted to do something weird and quirky. They're doing it, and trillions of dollars are revolving such scripts because it's a very important book, and therefore it is not crazy to think that the prophecies of such books are actively being pursued. What, you think that the whole barcode deal and the whole wearing the mark of the beast deal that's about to happen, do you think that the people in charge are just doing it at random? No, they know what they're doing. They want to fulfill the prophecies. They want to for the new age. That's all in the Bible. And let's look at Hitler as well. You can play certain roles too. World War II. Hitler is the Antichrist, or he played the role of the Antichrist. Maybe not to the point in which the real Antichrist might come soon, before the final blow into the age of Aquarius. That has to do with even more esoteric cosmology and understanding of the stars and of how generations have worked throughout eons. The Antichrist was a role played by Adolf Hitler, Beer Hall Putsch in the 9th of November, 9/11. He was the Antichrist. Everybody loved him. He was beautifully well-spoken when he came out. I don't know if you guys have heard the translated version of his speech where he's like, the very popular speech where he's, he speaks with such passion, with such motivation. And everyone adored him. He created the strongest empire. He created the Third Reich and the strongest army Germany had ever seen. Right now, the U.S. Army, which you guys know is the most insane army in the freaking world, against the German army, very close tie. Seriously, very close tie. In terms of quantity of soldiers, maybe not technology, then it wouldn't be a very close tie. And what ended up happening? Mass destruction. Millions of people dead. All of them. Their families. Their wives as well. The children grew up from a disgusting state in which they had to see all of their loved ones be taken away and sent to camps where they were killed from a guy who was well-spoken. He played the role of the Antichrist because they try to fulfill and replay out the stories that happened in the past, like Samson's sacrifice, and by the way, Samson's sacrifice was when Samson regained all the powers from his God. Bam! He demolished the 2 pillars. And Tisha B'Av, right, the day in which Solomon's temple was brought down, and 9/11. The 2 towers, the 2 poles, and the 3rd tower. And the reason why I started talking about Saturn now, in Saturnian worship, one of the symbols of Saturn, and you can actually see this also in encyclopedias of symbolism. The black cube represents Saturn. That's why you have, the Sega Saturn, which is a GameCube, which is black. Same thing as the Nintendo GameCube. You have the black cube of Saturn. That's why in a bunch of different cities, you have a giant statue of a black square. Why? Because it's modern art? Because maybe it's funny? No, because it's the symbol. That's why in the Satanic Church, you look at what? You pray or you do whatever rituals you do with an altar. And what is the shape of an altar? It is a black cube. The black cube. Hexagram, you look at it up, right? You look at a black cube. Let me get this. This cube right here. Well, the outline of this cube is a hexagon, like the hexagon of Saturn. Hexagon. Symbol of the black cube. So, okay, Judaism has the Star of David. That is Saturn. And you know what's interesting about the Star of David? The Star of David actually represents polarity and trinity, just like Tisha B'Av. Not like Tisha B'Av, sorry. Just like what the heck? Why isn't this thing working? Come on. There we go. Just like the 2 pillars, right? Bosniakin. Why? Well, in not Hermeticism, but in alchemy, right? You have the 4 different elements, and the 4 different elements are attributed to different genders, right? Because you also have the law of gender. The law of gender is, kind of similar to the law of polarity, but the law of polarity, it has to do with the law of gender. It's very, very, very similar. The law of gender is that every single thing in the world has gender. Not just human beings, but attributes. Attributes are feminine and masculine, which you can even give to physical objects if you wanted to. The law of gender. Now, this is the triangle. It's standing upright. Upright. And this represents physically, the male genital, right? It stands upright. And also the metaphysical, right? Which is the attributes of masculinity. A traditionally masculine and divinely masculine man and woman as well, because women can be masculine as well, is and have masculine attributes, stands upright. Stands upright. Now, then you have the female, and I'm sorry that I'm making this smaller, but I don't have space on the paper. The female is the opposite, right? The female is, again, you look at the shape of the genital would be down, right? Compared to the male genital. The difference is also the metaphysical, which is the attributes of this female, which is no longer necessarily upright, but rather standing how do I visualize this? This right here is support, right? Which is why people say happy wife, happy life, or, behind every great man is a great woman, because the woman or the feminine provides stability. That's why mothers provide stability for the children, emotional stability, emotional intelligence is a very big attribute of femininity. Now, you combine both of these together, what do you get? you get a child. The child is crystallized into Saturn. This is male-female generation. The two attributes combined. This is Boz, Yakin, and the third pillar. Trinity. Ein Sof Ar. Trinity! And also, in this case, the Saturnian hex. And then, you take this and you see that this is actually a cube. Hold on. Let me draw this cube properly. Right? Am I dumb? Hold on. I'm not dumb. Yeah, the cube, right? The cube, which is let's add some shading, because shading is important. That's the darker side. Just because I want to shade. And this is maybe the less darker side. Okay, that's the cube. Black cube of Saturn. Why? Because Saturn also represents death. Kronos is the Greek Saturn god, and Kronos ate his children. With death, and also more modern, after Skull and Bones specifically, Skull and Bones is a Saturnian cult because the skull represents the Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper is death. The scythe of Saturn is it's death. What is the Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings. I'm actually curious about this. Who is Lord of the okay, what is the Lord of the Rings? Oh, like who is the Lord of the Rings? Who is? Who is the Lord of the Rings? Okay, it doesn't want to tell me who is considered. I've never watched the movies, but it says here the title of the story's main antagonist. The antagonist is the Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Saturn, and what's the name of this antagonist? Sauron. Sauron, like Saturn, the Dark Lord. This is amazing. And then the ring gives you power, right? Just like when you enter Skull and Bones, you get power over everyone else because you control Saturn. You control the ring. You wield the ring. Except the ring controls you. If you're pursuing worldly pursuits, and the Bible warns of this, don't go for the world is wicked. Not necessarily that the world is wicked, but if all you do is worship power, and you do this through gaining rituals. Oh, sorry, am I still? Oh yeah, and you do this by doing rituals and getting into all these places. Eventually, you are going to exhaust your body. You're never going to reach your higher state of consciousness. You're never going to vibrate highly, and the ring owns you, just like in the movie The Lord of the Rings. That's all I know about The Lord of the Rings. That's why I had to search up who was considered the Lord of the Rings. It is the bad guy. It's the death, right? Forget bad and good, because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to look at things through a polarized perspective. We're here to look at things for what they are. Saturn is time, and with time, everything dies eventually. That's why Kronos ate his children. His children were eaten up because time eats you up. You don't have enough time on this planet. And not just you, everything that is material will eventually decay and be formed into something else, into a different concept, into a different idea, into a different thought. Saturn is time, and it is the time deity. Now, say what you will, because this part I'm also confused on myself. Is it actually true that the soul is crystallized through Saturn? I don't know. Is that just another metaphor? Is that just another way of describing Saturn? Why is it Saturn? Is it just because it has a hexagon on top? Probably. I'm not sure about that part. I'm just telling you what the religions think of this. And the religions, like Greek mythology, believe that it is time. Then later on we get the skull and the bones, right? Or the skeleton, the Grim Reaper. I am the Grim Reaper. I am the Black Beyonder. The Grim Reaper is death. It's the angel of death. Death because with time everything comes to death. Saturn is a deity or the concept of death and time. The moon brings death, but it is not death. And of course I'm talking about, winter, everything dies, and only the moon is out. In the night, the moon is out, and everything has to seek shelter, otherwise it gets eaten, or it freezes to death. The moon is, in ancient Egypt, was Set. Set was the god of destruction, or not really the moon, but rather the absence of the sun. Right. That's why you say the sun sets, because of the god Set. The sun sets. But this is a completely different concept. This is actual freaking death, because this is time. Now, 9/11, we go back to 9/11. The symbols of Saturn. Symbols of Saturn are, you have already, the hexagram, the hexagon, and the black cube of Saturn. Black because darkness, darkness because death, death and darkness. Why? Because when you're dead, you can't, you cease to exist, you cease to experience. And also the rings. You wear rings? Nice, dude. Just know that is a symbol of Saturn. That's why when you marry someone, you have to marry not the person, but to the allegiance to the material world. Marrying is a Saturnian ritual because you are bounded by law. Not by love, but by law, which is why you need the ring. Everything has a reason. Everything that's cultural has a reason for being. When you get married, you are getting married to Saturn. There's no need to and earrings as well. Earrings are actually pressure points used in Babylon. But it's that same concept, and crowns as well. Crowns and corona, right? Kronos, corona. The crown is the ring around the head. That's why Jesus Christ, when he died on what? And we're going to get to this later on in a minute. When Jesus Christ died, he died on the cross. And what's interesting about the cross? The cross is the black cube of Saturn deveiled, right? Or taken apart into a 2D form. Look at this. If you want to make an origami black cube, if you want to make a cube, and you want to do it with some origami paper, origami, then you need to create the shape of a cross. Jesus Christ dies on a cross. The sun, when it starts to get cold and the sun sets in it during the winter, it dies on the La Crux constellation, a cross constellation. It dies on Saturn. Life dies on the cross, Saturn. And he wears the crown when he dies too. He wears the crown of thorns. Because Saturn is death, and it symbolizes death. He wears the crown. Corona. Cronus. Now, Skull and Bones, George W. Bush, Tisha B'Av, the destruction of polarity, the destruction of the generation. Remember, male, female, together form child. Ein Sof R. Sun, moon, together are forces that come from the monad. Or the North Star, Polaris, if you're looking at it through Freemasonry. Yin, yang together form Tai Chi. Destruction. Destroyed on the 9th of 11th. The 9th of the 11th. The 9th of the 11th month. Or the 11th of the 9th month. Why 9/11? Why is it 9/11? Because it's the code of Saturn. It's the code of the hexagram. The hexagram has a code, and it's oh my gosh. Suspected spam caller. Might this have some weird numerology? Weird synchronicity? The 47th? I got this call at 8:47. The first... Oh yeah, well, I'm in Norway, so every single number is 47. Whoa, I actually answered. Hold on. Every... Oh, I shouldn't say that, sorry. Actually, I don't care if I say that. Yeah, I live in Norway, and every single phone number that starts with the phone number of Norway is 47. 47 being called at 8:47, talking about Ein Sof R, talking about 9/11, third tower problem, the 47th problem of Euclid. Weird synchronicity. I know. Universe has a code. It's pretty interesting. Anyways, sorry about that. Now we go to the code of Saturn. When you look at the hexagram, you get the code 9/11. And let me pull it up because there's a certain photo. In Greek, Roman numerals. Let's pull this up. Actually, no. I'm going to use a better photo of this. 9/11. Here you go. 9/11. This is, there we go. And so, cube, or whatever you want to do here, the code of Saturn. Here we have Freemasonry even. Now, Freemasonry, this symbol of the square and compass, is also a symbol of Trinity and polarity. How do we know this? Well, again, and I'm going to explain this in physical terms so that it's easier to understand. You have the man mounting the woman, and in the middle is G. G, seventh letter of the alphabet. Seventh letter, or the number 7, is known to be the number of God. God, G for God, G for grand architect, G for generation. And in other cases, instead of a G, what you have is an eye, an all-seeing eye that sees all. That is God. That is the source that sees everything. That is the power of generation. Man, woman, child. And beside it, you have Baz and Yakin in the Freemasonic Lodge. Baz and Yakin, the two polars of polarity. And those two create the Roman numerals 9/11. Here you have it as well. The cube, when viewed from this way, 9/11. Look. When viewed in this perspective. And this perspective creates also the Star of David. The Star of David also has to do with this. 9/11. Now let's look at some Bible verses. 9/11. I'm going to read some to you. We go out here. P Psalms 9:11. Sing and praise of the Lord enthroned in Zion. Proclaim among the nations what he has done. That actually wasn't the one. Sorry. Revelation 9:11 is what I meant to do. They had as a king over them the angel of the abyss. Abyss, like darkness, like death. The abyss of the black cube of the concept of Saturn, whose Hebrew name is Abaddon and in Greek is Apollyon. That is the destroyer. The destroyer. What happens in 9/11? Beer Hall Putsch. Destroying. 9/11. Destroying. Tisha B'Av. Destroying. The day in which the Chilean armed forces had a putsch d'état. Destroying. Day of destruction. Revelation 9/11. Also, let's not forget maybe some modern versions of Saturn or Saturnian symbolism. You have NASA. NASA means to deceive, by the way. Apollo 11. Apollo, the destroyer. In Revelation 9:11. Apollo 11. 11, the two towers, the two twin towers, Baz and Yakin. And the name is Saturn! Saturn what? Saturn 5. What does Saturn do when it crystallizes you? It puts you into the 5 alchemical elements. Or the 5 senses of the human body. It crystallizes you into the 5 senses where you can only see, taste, smell, feel, and hear. This is what it's all about. There are connections everywhere. And it's because of this, this whole notion behind Saturn. 9/11. How do I know that it's a Saturnian ritual? When was the first time I realized it was a Saturnian ritual? Yeah. Ground Zero. The memorial site of 9/11 and the Twin Towers are 2 black cubes. Because Baz, Yakin, and the 3rd tower were put into darkness, into the black cubes. Satan is Saturn. When you talk about Satanism, you're really talking about Saturn. Satan is the lower self. Satan is the body. Satan lives in hell. Hell is down there. Down where? At your heel. Hell is heel. Hell is red. Why is it red? Because the lowest vibrational frequency of light that we can visually see is red. Satan has 2 horns. Why does it have 2 horns? Because it's the goat. The goat is, in this case, in this scenario, the ground animal. Meanwhile, the angels that have the light of the world have wings like birds, and they're completely white because the highest vibrational frequency of light that we can see is just pure white. And the lower self, and here's the thing, Satan is the lower self. Why is it the lower self? How do you become part of the lower self? When you think only with your left brain, or with your right brain, although that's very rare, when you only think with the left side of your brain, you're constantly pleasuring the body, constantly engaging in the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins is what leads to worldly pleasures, right? You have gluttony, for example. If you're gluttonous and all you do is munch and chew and eat, you are engaging solely in the pleasure of the taste. And that brings you closer to Satan. In other words, it brings you closer to the physical. In other words, it brings you closer to Saturn. Now, Saturn is not just... You don't only have to view it through the lens of death and destruction and Satan and all these evil things, because without Saturn, you can't be in the physical, without the symbol of Saturn. What's crazy about the symbol of Saturn is we then go to what is known as the sine waves, and how we are born into an algorithm, right? The matrix is an algorithm. An algorithm is where everything goes in a rhythm, because it's all going rhythm. What type of rhythm specifically? It's not super complicated. It's a sine wave. Adam and Eve. Adam is the atom and Eve is the ether. Yes, you have stories of Lilith and the civilization that came before Adam and Eve in the book of in the Apocrypha, and in different lost and hidden scriptures of the Bible. But Adam and Eve is such a powerful concept because it is the atom and the ether. It is Adam and Eve, atom and ether. The atom, and you look at the electromagnetic forces of an atom, you can see in the center you have a symbol that kind of looks like the Freemasonic cross or the sigil of Saturn. Sigil of Saturn looks like the Freemasonic square and compass. Let me pull it up. Sigil of Saturn. Look at this, guys. The sigil of Saturn is literally Freemasonry. That's the square and compass right there. Look at this. Sigils of Saturn, and yeah, you have this thing. This kind of looks like Kabbalah, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, and this can be seen in an electromagnetic field. Hold on. This actually might... It might be a little bit of a reach, I understand, but either ways, the physical, right? It's Saturn, and sine waves that go around us are, yeah, they're sine waves that go around us. For example, the way that the sun moves, it's in a sine wave. It's like this. All the time. You have the cycle of death and birth. You die. People die. They're born again. People die. They're born again. You have everything comes in cycles. That's a Hermetic principle as well. Cycles. Astrological cycles. That's why you have astrology. Astrology... Okay, we can go into the cringy side of astrology, which, it's kind of cringe to say, coming from someone who used to go, astrology, all that stuff is BS. But the Bible has secret messages about astrology, and not only that, but the what are they called? The zodiac signs and constellations, that's the universal clock. That's the clock of the universe that we can see from this world. It moves like a clock. All in cycles. The clock moves in a cycle. You're going to be happy. Don't get overexcited because you're going to be depressed again. And once you get depressed, don't get over depressed and feel like giving up, because everything's going to change back again someday. That's why when people say, discipline is like the most important thing, to an extent, yes. But then to another extent, you have to understand what cycles are. Because if you're just hammering all over and over and over again, rather than taking the time to, understand your cycles and rest the way that you should when you're feeling down, so that when you feel up, and motivated, you pair that with, a good amount of discipline, your astral flame is through the roof, and you can do everything. Law of cycles. The sine wave cycle of the physical. Everything is an algorithm. All goes in a rhythm. Algorithm. Cycles. The Hermetic law of cycles. Let's just concentrate on that. Atoms combined with the ether, right? And the ether, by the way, is the electromagnetic schism around the world, right? We can't see it. We can't perceive it. I can. Okay? Chillax. But, yeah, the ether is, it works together with, binding planes, more liquid, less constraint than the physical, and it allows things to work. And it's bounded in the sine wave, which is the cycles. Cycles. Sine is cycles. And what's interesting about the atoms and the ethers being bounded to the sine wave is that Adam and Eve are born into sin. They weren't born into sin, but because of them, you are born into sin. What sin? Sine of the sine wave. Am I cooking here? I think I'm cooking here. No, I read this from a book. But I'm making all the connections by myself. So that's... And I'm making this freaking entertaining as well to listen to. So I kind of am cooking a little bit. Anyways, the sine wave is part of the physical. What's interesting is then, what is the physical and how do we represent the physical? Well, let's go over here and let's search up the symbol phi, right? Phi. Ooh, what do we get? This is interesting. Phi. Okay, let's copy this image. Interesting. The phi. Well, what's interesting is then you search up a torus field. The sine waves. Sine waves of what? Because we're in a cycle. Just like a clock is in a sine wave, right? Going from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m., 6 a.m., 12 a.m., 6 a.m., 12 a.m., 6 a.m., 12 a.m., 6 a.m. Just like a clock goes in a sine wave, right? Death, birth, death, birth, death, birth. The electromagnetic energy of a torus field does the same thing. Electrically distorted across and magnetically pulled in. Distorted. Okay, we get that. Phi. That's the symbol of phi. So this is like a cycle of phi. Like a weird cycle of phi. What's the cycle of phi? The phi cycle? The physical? Yeah. Exactly. And what's interesting about this phi cycle is, let's put this in here. Is there no way to... Oh, here we go. What does that look like? What does this phi cycle look like? The physical looks like Saturn. The heck? Saturn. Like we discussed before, Saturn is worshipped by different people. Some of them in power, some of them not in power. And the ones who are not in power don't know what it is. We've already talked about two of them. In Judaism, you have the Saturnian hexagram. That's the first way in which they worship Saturn. In Christianity, you have the cross. That's another way in which they worship Saturn. Now, let's look at the sigil of Saturn, actually. The symbol of Saturn. Symbol of Saturn. This is the alchemical symbol of Saturn, right? I'm a freaking alchemist right now. Symbol of Saturn is this, right? Now, this is very interesting when you look at Catholic, and again, the Catholics, that's where the Jesuits are, and the Vatican, the evil freaking trillionaires. Symbol of Saturn. And we look at a Catholic Jesus with heart, right? I'm sure you've all seen these paintings of Jesus with the heart. Well, okay, let's copy this image. First thing, remember the crown as image. The crown of thorns. That's the first thing. His heart right now in this Jesuits type of Catholic painting. You have the sigil of Saturn. Except you have it mirrored as well. With a crown. And I forgot what the name of this one designer is. But there's this one designer that makes pendants for necklaces that look like this. It's Saturn with a little cross on top. Forgot the name of it, but it's a jewelry fashion designer, whatever. That's not too bad. There's like the leopard pattern from Monarch Experiment. That's like way worse. But even still, be aware of the symbolism. The symbolism is everywhere because like Confucius says, the world isn't governed by words or ideas or actions, but rather symbols and sigils. Symbols are important. Language and words are symbols. So why is this not a language that you understand? This is a language that the elites use. So, Saturn worship in Christianity. Saturn worship in everyday life, right? You get to go take a break in Saturday, right? All the different days of the week have different planets attributed to it. You have Monday, which is the day of, and again, this goes back to the 7 planets. Why is it Neptune or Uranus in this? Because this goes back to ancient knowledge, right? That didn't care about. There's a reason for why they didn't consider Neptune and Uranus to be a planet or planets, but 7 days of the week. You have the first one, Monday. Mon is moon. Monday. Then you have Tuesday. Tuesday is the day of Mars. Masculine. Mars. How do I know? Because in Spanish, you say martes. Martes. Martes is Tuesday. Then you have Wednesday. Wednesday is miércoles, which is Mercury. Mercury for miércoles. And then you have Thursday. Thursday is jueves, which is Jupiter. And then you have Friday. Friday is viernes, which is also, but before I say, Jupiter is Thor, Thursday, Thor's day, Thor, because he is the god of thunder. Jupiter is the god of thunder. That's why there's 9 storms on top of Jupiter. That's why there's storms everywhere on Jupiter. It's the god of thunder. That's Thor's day. Then we have Fricka's day. Fricka is a deity of Venus, which is also Lucifer, by the way. Lucifer is the morning star and the evening star, which is Venus. Venus for viernes in Spanish, again. And then we have Saturday, Saturn's day, where you get to chillax, you get to hang out with your bros, go take a beer. And then Sunday. Sunday's the holy day because that's the sun's day. That's where you go to church on a Sunday. So, yeah, it all has very, very important symbolism. So you worship Saturn on a Sunday.
I meant Saturday.
You worship Saturn when you get married. You worship Saturn when you know, have the cross. This is the cross symbolizes a lot of different things, but on top of everything, it symbolizes Saturn. I don't wear it because of Saturn though. I wear it for many different reasons, but I don't think of Saturn when I do it. But it is a symbol of Saturn. Then you have in Judaism. They cover their eyes and they put on a little hat with a little black cube on top. Black cube of Saturn. They wrap around a black belt or black band around their hands. Why? Around their arm. Why? Because they're being, sucked into this black cube. It's a symbolism for that. And when they do the prayers, they close their eyes because they are submitted into darkness. Just like in Masonic rituals, people are blindfolded. Why are they blindfolded? Because they are, and actually in Freemasonry it's a little bit different, because in Freemasonry they go from darkness to light. In Freemasonry you put the blindfold on, and then you awaken, and it's a whole ritual where dudes stand at you with swords and you're kneeling down. It's very weird, but Saturn worship is in Judaism. Again, the hexagram, Star of David, and yeah, you have that little black cube as well, and the prayers with the black tape. And then what about Islam? Islam's got to have something as well, right? Because you have the three Abrahamic religions, all of them have symbolism for Saturn. Well, Islam's a lot of different things. It's a lot of lunar worship, along with some Venus, or morning, or I think it's Eastern stars, so it might not be the same thing. But can anyone think about how Judaism could have Saturn worship? Anyone? Yes, the cube in Mecca, the Kaaba. The Kaaba, what do? What do the pilgrims do? They walk around it in a ring. They form rings around Kaaba. There's this, so you have Saturnian worship in every single Abrahamic religion at some point. And the thing is, Kaaba, like Ein Sof-Ar, like the Trinity is shown within the hexagram, like the way in which Jesus Christ dies, and Jesus Christ forms part of the Holy Trinity, like Tisha B'Av and the destruction of Solomon's temple. Just like those things, when you walk inside inside of the cube, there's 3 different rooms. You can't make this up. There's 3 different rooms, and I'm just realizing this now as well. There's 3 different rooms. That's the Trinity. That place was built. And people said when you got closer, when you passed each room, eventually when you got to the last final room or space, because it's not like rooms with doors. It's like it's confined spaces. When you get into the last one, that's when you realize. That's when you see God, like a Trinity. You meet the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You mean the mind, the body, and the soul. Covered in what? In the black veil. Baz and Yakin and the third pillar, you realize God through them. Destroyed Solomon's temple and 9/11 through the code of Saturn, which is 9/11. So, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't go into anything about missing $2 trillion and whatever else, George Bush inflation, incentivizing stuff into the U.S. economy through 9/11, but this stuff instead. But it's the truth, and Saturn worship exists in every part of the world. There's Saturn worship in things that you might not realize. There's so much Saturn worship in companies, it's unreal. Because people associate a company... they will worship a company as well. Take a look at Nike. Nike is the ring of Saturn. That thing, Nike, that's the ring of Saturn. The Nintendo GameCube, the Sega Saturn, the Nissan. You look at Nissan. Nissan is like a a ring. The text form a ring around the circle. I have a list here that I have. Oh, TikTok, 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 TikTok on the clock. Which clock? Saturn's clock. Let's look at the symbols of TikTok. TikTok symbol looks like this. And give me a freaking second. TikTok looks like this. Copy image, and there we go. Y'all know what TikTok looks like? TikTok is time. Time. Hold on, that's not right. It's like this, right? TikTok is time. And it looks very similar to the symbol of Saturn. Did I draw it right? Hold on a second. Yeah, I drew it right. The heck? Drew it freaking perfect. Very similar to the symbol of Saturn, and it's time. Then there's there's a bunch of other companies that you could probably find that worship Saturn. I think here I actually have a book that talks about Saturn, which has all the different companies that put their stuff into Saturn. Where are the different companies? Yeah, okay, so you have like Toyota, you have the Walkers, you have the Internet Explorer, you have Vivian Westwood, that's what it's called. Capital One, Corona and the Crown, NASA, you have that weird red thing, same thing. Whirlpool, Ring of Saturn, Universal Studios, Saturn again, symbolism. Capital One, Saturn. Intel, Ring of Saturn. Then you have like 666 symbology, like Monster. Monster is the Vav Vav Vav. Monster is 666 in Hebrew. The World Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, and then through all the O's you have the slash of the six. Disney, Walt Disney. You have the six stuff on there. There's even a place there's even a Disneyland that like literally puts the 666 from the Disney Walt Disney logo or title into like this one statue. It's very weird, and that's because it's all Saturn, bro. Everything in this world is Saturn. And this is why you have to do what? You have to think outside the box. What box? The black cube of Saturn. When you think too materialistically, three-dimensional, to be more exact. When you think too three-dimensional, you aren't at the fullest capability. You have to transcend that. Transcend the cube of Saturn. That's what it's all about. That's what a lot of what enlightenment is. It's thinking outside the box. It's when you be enlightened, you think beyond what constrains you in this matrix of Saturn. There's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and it was hold on, the Xbox. The Xbox. Black box, and the X and the X from the Roman numerals 9/11. Anyways, I want to talk about another thing that I actually noticed myself. The Angel of Death in the movie Click. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Click. It is literally just more Saturn worship, and the shape of the control in the movie Click. If you guys haven't seen the movie Click, Adam Sandler. Very interesting movie. Made me cry. It's the shape of the control in the movie Click is like the Nike logo. Like all these other companies that use ring-like symbolism, the control remote of the movie Click. Let me show you. Click. And there's this one scene in which the guy who sells that Click controller, or that controller in Click, the dude at the end says, "I'm an angel of death." There's a scene in which the guy says, "I'm an angel of death."
All your dreams came true, moron.
It's a movie about how time leads you to your death. You need to appreciate every single moment that you are given, because time eats you up like Kronos ate his children. And he's trapped into this thing. He's trying not to, accelerate the time and lose a bunch of time, but he can't, because he's trapped in the matrix of Saturn, the time god. And then how do we know that the Grim Reaper and death is this thing? Oh, there we go as well. Newman Theodore K, whoever this is, dead. That's the father of the guy who's of the protagonist. I don't know. I forgot the movie. But you get again the Saturnian hex. And when does this guy says at some point, "I'm an angel of death." Beyond. That might have some really, really interesting things. I think when he comes out into this place that's called the Beyond, he's exiting the physical, and that's when he learns of Saturn. Or this is when he enters the. No, actually, I think this is more like when he enters the code of Saturn and he becomes crystallized. Movies in themselves are very, very, very symbolic, guys. You can read the Bible as much as you want. You can read the Kabbalion. You can read a bunch of different books on Hermetic principles. You can read books about, the laws of this world. And then you can read stories like the Bible, like the Talmud, like the Hindu scripts and all the Hindu scripts. Books on Tai Chi and Wu Chi. All of these different things. You can read these books. The Alchemists. You can read books that people know have some secret esoteric meanings behind them. But what people don't realize, and what Momo made me realize from that other stream, is that Hollywood knows about these stories. I mean, for Christ's sake, 9/11 happened. A theater play. There's people that talk about how rich people came in to see 9/11. Like they flew in to see 9/11. Like it's some freaking theater play of Solomon's temple being destroyed. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. I watched Doctor Strange. Freaking perfect. It's a story kind of like The Alchemist. And actually, now that I'm editing this and I'm looking back on this, I just realized the movie Doctor Strange is based on the concept of time, when the 6 Infinity Stones, again, 6 Infinity Stones, right, that rule the world, that make everything disappear. 6 Infinity Stones, 666. But the one that's expressed the most in Doctor Strange is the Time Stone. And then you got this whole freaking deity, Dormammu, that is, doesn't know what time is. And it's a story of self-mastery for this one guy who lived pursuing the physical, never even knew it, and eventually, when he became enlightened, he took control of the Time Stone, and he took control over time. He went beyond and above it. Kind of like the stories of the disciples of Christ. Kind of like the story of Christ in Doctor Strange. Except it's not holy, it's not all of these different titles, but it's still metaphorical. This movie, Click, Momo, and when he talks about Naruto and how it explains the laws and principles of Wu Chi, to a higher extent than Doctor Strange explains, spiritual things. But yeah, you can watch Indiana Jones and you can learn about the Knights Templar and how that is a prophecy that needed to be taken, and the Ark of the Covenant. All of these different things that the Hollywood media portrays to you, they make it this little story so that you're entertained and brainwashed. Meanwhile, for the elite, the people who, the Queen Elizabeth, you think Queen Elizabeth is learning about tectonic plates? You think she's learning about how to do I forgot how to do the what it's called, but it's a mathematical chart. You think she's learning about that? No, she's being taught Hermetic principles. She's being taught alchemy. She's being taught all of these different things at the private school because she, since the moment she was born, is part of a royal society of Freemasons and Nazis. But I'm not going to go into that right now. Yeah, it's those people who have the eyes to see, either because they spent their whole life searching on it, like me. I have had such a big driving force to get me to the truth. That's all I want to do. Uncovering Arcanum Arcanorum, it is my destiny. I want to know the secrets of this world, the truth. And that has led me to this discussion that I'm having right now. Everything that I've learned so far. All of the dots that I've gathered. All of the synchronicities. All of it, all of it is a, when you have the eyes to see and you learn the symbols, which you could probably do just by learning, like from an encyclopedia of symbols, by the way. But it needs to be a little bit more than that. You need to be able to see the code. You are able to see the story of the Bible and the story of the alchemists and the story of the Hinduist scripts. Although the scripts aren't really stories, they're teachings specifically. But metaphorical stories of mythology and all of these different things. You no longer look at Kronos as this deity that ate all the children. You see Kronos as everything that I've already explained to you. And you then see that same story in Hollywood media. Anime. Books. A lot of it is to deceive you. A lot of it is to brainwash you. But the people who understand, they know what's going on. So they can make notes. They can learn from it. Just like the Bible. The Bible and religion in general, I would say, since Hinduism actually, you have this system that's been put across the world where people believe dogmas for whatever reason because they've been sold on the factor of fear, and they believe things that, feudalism, give your money to the kings will give the money to the church, and the church remains the most powerful because it controls the thoughts and the minds. That's why I say atheism is a religion. Because through atheism, you can still have the power to control people's minds because you still trust on a system that is based on what people think is real. Except you don't know what's real until you personally experience it and see it with your own experience. That's what the Bible is for. For you. That's why they made the Bible for you. So that you can read it and realize that, or not realize, but see and read that Judas had to kiss Jesus Christ, even though everyone would have known where he was, instead of what the Queen of England is taught, which is that it's all symbolism for the cosmos. Or Luke 22:10, the man with the jar. What do you guys think that means? What does the Christian think that means? I ask any Christian, I don't think they even know what that means. But to those who have been studying and who have learned the secret language of symbols, you realize that the same story of the Bible has been told millions of times, just in different ways and with different names to the characters. Which is why Click, the movie Click, symbolism for Saturn. Yeah. Get good, kid. I'm obviously, I'm still on my way of discovering truth. And I find that these conversations that I have with myself are very helpful for myself, because I get to, just through this conversation alone that I had, I just realized a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know. I made connections I never made before. And also, just to articulate my thoughts and realize, hey, maybe some stuff doesn't make that much sense. So yeah. Saturn. It's a very powerful energy that crystallizes your soul. Have a great day.